So, so we've just hit record. Welcome everyone once again. I'm Graham. I'm the co-founder of Clear Admit, and let's get into some introductions. That's probably all you really need to know about me. So let's hear, first we're going to welcome J.R. McGrath, who's the Director of Recruiting at Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business. Welcome, J.R.
Awesome, very happy to be with you today and meet everyone.
Thanks, JR. Yeah, we're glad to have you. Next up, I wanted to introduce, let's see if she's, here we go, Lauren Sutherland, who's the Program Director of Admissions at Duke's Fuqua School of Business. How's it going, Lauren?
Hi, everyone. It is very hot and balmy here in Durham, North Carolina today, but I'm excited to be indoors and with you this afternoon.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. Next up, we've got Virginie Fougea, who's the Global Director of Admissions at Insead, but I believe
I'm back.
Sure. She's back. Here
Graham.
she is. All right. Okay.
Sorry for the heart attack.
Also,
everybody.
No problem.
Yeah. So welcome, Virginie. Yeah, we had a little bit of a technical issue getting Virginie's video to work, but welcome.
Yes, thank you. It's great to be with you, and 2 years after being online to still have video issues.
All right, excellent. Next up, we've got David Simpson, who's the admissions director for the MBA and Masters in Finance programs over at London Business School. Hi, David.
Hi, Graham. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you. It's great to be back. Thanks for inviting us. Delighted to be here, speaking to a different group of people. And I'm very happy to be able to say it's been boiling hot here too. So rarely can I say that from London, but we don't quite know what to do. So which country is this?
Yeah, yes, and I can attest that it's been very hot here in Europe. And then last but not least, I wanted to introduce Stacy Battis, who is the Director of Full-Time MBA Recruiting and Admissions at McCombs School of Business at UT Austin. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Graham. Thanks for having me. I feel very sorry for everyone that is in this heat right now that we are very accustomed to in Texas, but also have much more in terms of air conditioning probably than many of you. So feeling for you.
So let's dive in. So we've got a whole bunch of people who've joined us and the numbers are still climbing, but let's get settled in. And what I wanted to do first is just start with a really simple question. And Stacy, let's just stay with you because, I feel like we got to go backwards sometimes through the alphabet. So Stacy, I wanted to know, like, when do you read the essay component of the application at McCombs? And also, if you're willing, like, how much time do you typically spend reading somebody's application?
Yeah, I love this question because I feel like we don't usually go this much into the black box of admissions, right? So we typically read essays towards the end of our review of an application at McCombs. So we usually will start with things like the resume and kind of get a snapshot of work experience, and then work our way down to the why do you want to be here? What do you want to do? Kind of essay reading. And then in terms of how much time we typically spend, I would say anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the application and the components.
Okay, perfect. David, how about at LBS? You guys have one essay, but when do you read that essay, and how long do you spend reading the file overall?
So the file time varies, depends, you can quickly see whether it's going to be a long read or a fairly straightforward read. The straightforward ones come if it's very promising and we think that they're an easy decision to put through to interview. The longer reads will be if we're not sure, or if something's not as strong, we want to give it the merit because it's only going to have that 1 or 2 reads. So I would say 20 to 30 minutes on an application, depending on the experience of the reader, and it'll be read by at least 2 people. When we read them, I like to know who somebody is before getting to the essay. So I want to make sure I've seen the resume and the job history, and then I will go to the essay. So somewhere in the middle, it's as it appears in my application, but that's been designed, the printout, so that we can kind of go through that experience of facts plus, okay, now what have you got to say? Now I know who you are. What are you telling me?
Got it. And I want to underline one thing that you said, David, because I realize people who are tuned in to this webinar have, they're going to pour their heart and soul into their applications. They're going to spend a lot longer than 20 or 30 minutes producing their application. And so I did want to remind, one thing that David mentioned is it gets at least a couple of reads. So when we talk about someone spending 20 or 30 minutes with your file, that's just one of the reads. Many schools have 2, if not 3 reads before an actual final decision is going to be made. So just want everyone to know that you will get a fair amount of attention from the admissions committees at these programs. Virginie, at Insead, how does it work? When do you read the essays and how much time does it take you to go through a file?
Yeah, you're very, very right, Graham, when you say there are going to be different people looking at each application, and there will be, the importance is to have different perspective. And because we want to really be mindful of any potential biases and this sort of making sure that we give everyone a chance. And sometimes it's, as David said, it can be a little bit easier because this is profiles we've seen before or similar trends, but there are some profiles, what we call the atypical, where we will need to dig further to really understand what the person is doing and the type of personality. So this is the type of work we do behind the scenes. The other thing is that we have the videos to watch. Most of the schools have videos as well, so it's not just the essays, but it's also the full picture and looking at all the elements, but somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes per application is fair.
Okay, perfect. I love getting, I know Stacey mentioned at the beginning, like this is kind of the black box, like we're really getting inside how you all go through the files. Lauren, tell us a little bit about how it's done at Fuqua at Duke. I'd love to know more.
Yeah, similar to many of my colleagues, we take care of the more quantitative components of your application first, and then move into the qualitative components where your letters of recommendation or your essays fall in. So it is one of the last things that we read, but I enjoy the essays the most out of all of it, and feel like when I'm writing up my overall evaluation of your file, if your essays where your personality really shines through are the last thing that I read, that is what I am talking more about when writing up my summary. And at Fuqua, we spend about an hour on each application the first time that we read it. And then once it's read by a second person, typically that's about 30 minutes per file.
Okay, got it. Really helpful. JR, thanks for being patient as we went backwards through the alphabet. You will get to go first in the next section, but tell us a little bit about Tepper and yeah, how the team looks at the file when they look at the essays, et cetera.
Absolutely. So I think the good news here is that there seems to be a lot of consistency. So maybe that will have candidates feel a little bit more comfortable there. I think if you would poll our team, resume would probably be first, because as someone else articulated, it's a really good snapshot. It gives you a quick sense before maybe going deeper into some of the other parts. For me, I go resume, then right into essays, because I like to understand maybe what they're trying to do, how they've already tried to explain that. And it gives me context sometimes to look at those other things. And maybe that's letters of recommendation, maybe that is part of the transcript. And I'll say for me, like when I reading one, and we'll say same time, I would say 20-30 minutes. Sometimes that can go a little bit north if again, maybe it's not as a straightforward candidate as maybe some are. But I'll kind of revisit some of those sections, and usually it's essays and maybe letters of rec, so maybe more that qualitative to again be able to really get a good sense of specific things that they may be able to bring to the programming community.
Got it. Okay, super helpful. So with that kind of initial stuff out of the way, I wanted to move in to the kind of really school specific stuff here. And so JR, will stay with you. You have a single essay this year that just came out. So I feel like we're almost getting an exclusive here, because I think this just came out yesterday or something, right? Or maybe even, yeah. So tell us a little bit about, normally I would say, tell us about one of your essays, but since you only have the one, I presume you're going to talk about this one, but let us know, like, how did you guys formulate this question? And what is it that you're sort of looking for when you read a response to it?
Absolutely. So, and thanks for kind of teeing this up. So I'll say, so like, this is hot off the presses. You all get this actually has not even been posted on our website yet. So this is the breaking news with our essay. In particular, what we're trying to do when we're trying to essentially develop an essay question is we get all of those different stakeholders involved throughout the program as well as the community. So we're trying to understand, what are trends going on in our own school? What are the values that we have for our own school, institution, and program? Are there things that we may want to explore to be able to better evaluate candidates to ensure that we are that right fit program for them, as well as we can provide essentially the experience and ROI that they're looking for. In particular for this question, the reason why we chose this is we really wanted to highlight some of those values that we have here in our school and community, and be able to understand from candidates about how they would really help bring those values forward. And as you can see from the question, this is really about how you are going to be that community member that can help everyone in the program and community reach their full potential. And in particular for this, and this is something that I love about MBA programs, they are very collaborative. They're programs where you get to learn quite a bit from your classmates. And if you want to fully share yourself with your classmates in terms of maybe your academic background, your career background, the things that are your strengths, then everyone can learn from each other. And if you have an area that maybe is not a strength, maybe one of your classmates can also help with that. And that really is going to create that strong bond and community. And I think that's one of the things that we're known for going forward, is that we may not be the largest MBA community out there, but we are definitely a close-knit community that will help you throughout the rest of your career. And in particular, the advice, I guess, for this essay, I think, essay questions are great in the way that it gives you an opportunity to really reflect upon yourself, and think about how you want to be an active and productive member of that community. And I think this exercise gives that to you. And I know when I'm talking with people that are either in the program or have gone through the program, that community aspect is really important. So we really wanted to bring that front and center. And lastly, in terms of things to think about as well, is that a lot of times these essay questions are going to be leading into other things, whether that's questions during the interview, whether that's going to be, things that we work on with you in our program. So these are chosen very intentionally, and we love that people will spend some time on that to make sure that they can find that program that is the right fit.
Got it. Yeah, I appreciate you kind of unveiling this here for the session today. I did want to say I particularly am happy to see that the question says, an example of a time when you experienced or created an inclusive environment, because I feel like that keeps the door open for folks who maybe they haven't created their own sort of inclusive environment, but they were part of one and know how it works and can bring that into your community. So very interesting question. I did want to ask you about something else, which is, I know that you hinted that you guys are going to do something with a required video essay, or a video, I don't know a video prompt this year. So would you be willing to just talk a minute about that as well?
Absolutely. So the other topic that we always ask candidates about are their career goals. And we thought that this would be a great opportunity to really be able to have someone have that opportunity to talk through that, rather than just try to write something very succinct. And this is going to be an opportunity also for us to get to know the candidate a little bit better. I think having that video opportunity gives us an opportunity to also have someone really come off the paper, obviously. So we're excited about that component. I would say the things that we're thinking about there, and I think this is also good advice for any essay question, is that you can state what you want, but it's always really about maybe the why behind that, or the reasons that you think that is going to be a great fit for you. And that's really what we're looking for here, is it's going to be able to give someone an opportunity to explain it, not only just say what they want.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Great advice. All right. So let's move on and talk a little bit with Lauren from Fuqua. So Lauren, just, you have, I think there are 2 questions. We might have 2 slides as a result. And so we're going to let you be our guide here and pick one of your essays that you want to sort of speak to. And yeah, just let us know where it came from and what you're looking for when you read it.
Perfect. Well, we'll start on the slide that is showing right now, because the 25 random things is the essay question that I get the most questions about, and it also has the most unique origin story. So for its origin, this has been an essay at Fuqua far preceding my time here, which was 7 years ago. And it started because when new staff were brought onto our admissions team, the director of admissions at the time would ask them to send around 25 things about themselves so that their teammates could learn more about them. The staff enjoyed it so much that they decided to make it an essay question for all of our applicants, and actually for all of our programs, not just the daytime MBA program. Applicants submit 25 things that make them who they are. Now, where I start to get questions about it is, how do I even start crafting an essay that is a list, but is also an essay? And I think the important thing to remember is that you are still telling a story through these 25 points. We ask you to number them, and we actually mean that. We really want you to number it because it helps us, and it mostly helps you to actually include 25. And they should vary in length. Some of your facts are only going to be 1 sentence long. Others may need to be a paragraph to get the point and the story that you're trying to tell across. There are no other formatting guidelines other than to number them. So you can include pictures, you can include hyperlinks, you can be funny if that's you, you can be serious if that's you. We will follow your lead on this essay. So if you send us links, we're going to follow them to get more context. It's probably why it takes us an hour to read every application when I'm feeling like I could be doing it in 30 minutes. But it truly is the most fun part of the essay or the application reading for us. And it is something that will stay with you at your time at Fuqua. You will be asked to share one of your 25 things at orientation. You will hear them at our admitted students weekend, right up through graduation. So it really is a hallmark of the culture of our school, and just that genuine interest in getting to know more about you outside of your academic accomplishments and professional accomplishments. We don't want to see those in the 25 things. It really should be your personality. What makes you you? Tell us about your childhood. Tell us about your upbringing, about your future goals. It is the more interesting that you find these, or you crowdsource them, the better off your essay is. So ask your family, ask your friends, ask your colleagues. How would you describe me? Give me 2 different scenarios that we were in, or situations. And I think the best way to actually start this essay is to start now. If you're going to apply this year, and start a note in your phone, a folder in your email, and every time something comes to you that you think would be interesting to talk about, jot it down so that you come up with 35 things and you narrow them down to the 25 that are the ones that you really want to share with the admissions committee.
Got it. Okay. That is terrific advice. I think many people tuning in are kind of wondering, how do I go about, crafting this list? And it sounds like, yeah, just keeping a running list, asking friends, gathering so that you have maybe more than 25, and then kind of narrow down to get to the list. I did want to ask you about your second essay question, which I believe we have a slide on, and here it is. So
Yeah.
this question, which people can see on screen, is, obviously a really good way, it seems to me, like for your team to get a sense of how active a candidate might be on campus, and like where they're going to get involved, and that sort of thing. And I guess I had a sort of a tactical question about this, which is that, are one's contributions limited to outside of the classroom, like clubs and events and, centers and things? Or could one have a goal of like bringing a unique voice to in-class discussion? Because I noticed that, the question sort of seems to veer more towards the out of class stuff. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked that question, Graham, because that's the biggest pitfall that people encounter on our second essay. It needs to be outside of the classroom. Our baseline expectation is that you're going to bring your unique experiences and contribute inside of the classroom. So that's the bare minimum for being an engaged student at Duke. What we're interested in is, what unique facets are you going to bring? What are you going to be a part of in our community? Something that some of my colleagues may also experience if they're not in a huge city is that our students are relying on the Fuqua community to be their entire network while they are here in North Carolina. And we don't want people who are just going to contribute in class and then do nothing else, because that doesn't enhance the community for you as a student or your peers. So tell us about the things that really make you tick outside of the academics that you're really excited to be a part of while you're at Fuqua.
Okay, perfect. I'm really glad that I asked that question. I think that'll help people as they set out to answer it. Let's move on and talk with Virginie a little bit about what Insead has in their essays. Virginie, we have 2 slides so that your essays are on both of the slides. So just tell us where you want to go, because I know you're going to feature, sort of talk about one of them as a kind of initial thing here.
Sure. So thank you for having 2 slides. So let me clarify, those are more questions than essays. So they can be bullet points, they can be very numerical and short and to the point, and this is why we have a maximum of 200. So there are more questions. So if you don't mind switching to the next slide, I suppose you have the essays, which have been with us for a number of years. We like them. We get information that are very, very useful to us. And they also are kind of preparing you for your journey towards Insead. So it's some sort of self-introspection and starting to see why is this happening in your life? Why would you like to do an MBA? And how does that fit together with your personal life, your career, your professional life? And this is the reason why I have those 3 essays for a number of years now. And today I'd like to probably put a little bit of light and emphasis on the second one, because this one is a mix of experiences. So it's very concrete, very factual. What happened? What did you do? That were both very positive experiences, and on the other side, something that was less positive. And it can be coming from 2 different examples or different situations. And the idea behind this essay is not just the facts, but it's what did you learn? How did that influence you for your future decisions in life? How did that motivate you? So this is the idea behind this essays. This essay, number 2 essay, and also because it's linked with the questions we ask in the videos. And it's really for us starting to get to know you. Your value set, and how do you like to interact, and what makes you the person you are today, and hearing from the learnings is really, really interesting, because through different experiences one can get different learnings, and one can get different lessons from a similar experience. And this is what is really interesting, because we can be 2 or 3 or a group of people and a strike, and it becomes a nightmare. And how do you for example, switch that to a lesson and to an experience that will stay for you, with you for a little longer. So this is what we like to see in essay number 2, and that's about it. And the idea is really to link it to the video questions as well.
Okay, so and the video, can you just comment on that? Actually, since you've mentioned it, the video is part of the application.
Correct.
Is it for everyone? So everyone who applies will do these questions?
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Okay.
And they are on the similar trend. So really linked to your values, really to link to who you are and how you plan to contribute to the program, both in the classroom, but also in outside the classroom, sports activities, clubs, the student clubs, how do you expect to be contributing to this community that will be together with you? MBAs, Master in Management, Executive MBA, and how is that Insead community fitting together with your future aspiration? So that's the idea here.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I think that the thing that's interesting about SA2 that you highlight is this yin and yang of, well, where's something that you're really proud of, but then also a situation where you failed. And I will say, having led a number of these types of, essay kind of workshops with programs, I feel like you want something really authentic, right? You don't want what I would call a veiled success. Like, you want someone to be able to admit and discuss fairly candidly something that didn't go right, but obviously it sounds like you're really underlining the need for them to then also stress what they learned from it. So is that accurate?
True. And this is actually a very good tip, because there is no perfect template or mold or something you need to fit in. It's everyone is unique and will have a different story to share. It's just a question of which story do you decide to share with us and why. And we are not judging which story you share. If we believe that if this is what you decided to share with us, it's because it's important to you, and that brings light on you as an applicant, but not just a light that is just for the sake of this application. It's more the journey towards this, and that will continue within the program.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Let's move on. David, I was going to say, tell us about one of your essays, but as you know, you just have one. So although there's an optional essay, and we'll get into that too, but tell us about this essay that's up on screen, and yeah, just any advice, and what are you looking for when you read the responses?
So if you look at that and look at my friends here are talking about what essays they have, you might think, well, this is a bit dry. It's a bit straightforward. This is part of the overall process, the holistic process of where we put questions all over the application. So your interests, your activities, but I think we just wanted a clear space where we can say goals is the big word here. If you actually read it, what are your post-MBA goals? We haven't said what kind of goals. It could be professional goals, life goals. You can interpret as you will. On the whole, people fairly sensibly think about professional goals. We're a business school. You should have some goals with what you want to spend the big bucks on coming to business school. So we get facts out of this. We also get to look at your sense of self-awareness and reflection. It potentially shows the research you've done on LBS, because part of the question is about how will LBS contribute towards this goal. So break this down and look at what's there, what are we trying to hear, and then if you really want to, what opportunities are there to tell us a bit more. But you can overcomplicate it as well. It's part of the whole process. I think a big thing for me is that over half of our applicants are going to get an interview, and in the interview we stack a lot of requirements. So at that point we're going to find out a lot more about your personality, but peppered throughout the application there are tons of chances to show who you are.
So yeah, and that's actually a really interesting point, in that I think every school does it their own way in terms of like, where are they getting their information from? And for some schools, a lot more happens after there's been a kind of initial cut for the interview. But you all have, do you want to talk just briefly about some of those extra steps? Because I feel like there's a video component, right? And is that just for people who've been invited to interview, or is that everyone?
So some similarities to my colleagues here. For anybody who reaches the interview stage, the first thing they'll do is put together or answer some video questions to us. And one of them, again, is very much career related. And the second one is from a selection of 20 or so different questions. It could go off in lots of different angles. With that gives us a sense of consistency. So we can, as an admissions team, all form a view. And the reason why that's important is because the other part of the interview process is with an alum all around the world. So if you're thinking we've got hundreds of different alumni who are following guidelines and giving very specific feedback, but still they're going to do it their way. So the videos help us to have that consistency. So that's that part of the picture. And with the interview, a lot of it will be digging deeper into you and what drives you. So perhaps still not necessarily on the creative side of the essay thing. I don't know, maybe that's me, but I think for what I want to get out of this part of the application, it seems quite serious because this is a serious business. Your character will shine through in different places, you know.
Got it. All right. So then one more question for you, and that is, you see many of your peers have multiple essays. And I do feel as though some candidates, when they go through the process, they see, they answer your first question, and then they see that you have this optional essay, which is pretty open-ended. And they say, wow, I've got, put a lot of other stuff together for these other programs. Maybe I'll just kind of drop some of that into my LBS file. What do you say about that? Like, how should someone approach your optional essay? Because I do wonder if candidates are thinking, wow, there was just this one required question. I should use that optional question too. So what do you think about that?
So now I know that if anybody in their optional essay gives us 25 random things, I'll know where that's come from and how they've repurposed it. So I'm fine with that. Listen, part of it is about us forming a judgment on what you choose to tell us. So actually, you could look at this optional essay as an incredibly complex, deep assessment method, or you could just look at it and go, hey, it's a chance for me to tell you a bit more. I don't really mind how you interpret that, but what I will say is if you don't use it, it's a missed opportunity. It's a chance for us to tell us a bit more about you as a person and your ambitions, or something that makes you you, or just some facts and explanations of your story. We really don't mind. If there is something outlandish in there, it will draw our attention, not necessarily in a good way. So think carefully what you put in, but don't like everything. Don't overthink it. We like to read it. I think it's a bit crazy when people don't use the opportunity, but hey, maybe they're super confident in everything else they've got.
Got it. All right. Thanks for shedding light on that. Let's go to Stacey. You've been super patient as we've kind of waded through everyone's questions here. I did want to call attention to the fact that you guys have made some changes for this season in that you've kind of slimmed things down. I think you have a required video as well. So this is your essay. So you can, maybe tell us a little bit more about it, and then we'll get into the rest.
Yeah, there's a lot, Graham. We could have a whole hour on all the changes, but so we this year decided to go from 2 essays to 1. However, this essay that you're seeing on the screen has been part of our application for several years now. We developed it a few years ago, and we have loved hearing the responses from our applicants. And so it's just been too hard for us to change this essay because we simply love it. I also think there's an advantage for this essay for our applicants in that it really does help them kind of navigate their path. And so there's a lot of research that our applicants have to do in order to answer this draft, right? You're actually having to essentially map out your 2 years as a Texas McCombs student. And so that has really, we've heard from several students, like that has really helped me as I came into orientation and everything was being thrown at me at once, having thought reflectively about my time as a student helped prepare me for the program. So there's kind of twofold reasons why we love this essay. One, selfishly for us in admissions, and the other is it benefits the student. So really what we're looking for here is, have you done your research? Certainly that's a piece of it. So, it becomes really apparent with our essay prompt, whether you're recycling essays from another school, simply because ours is so specific, asking you to reflect on your time as a student. We're looking for why you want an MBA, and really how do your career goals, your personal goals as well, fit into this big, huge 2-year commitment that you're about to embark on. And specifically why Texas McCombs is the school for you. So really those 3 things are what we like to glean out of this. So a lot of the things that some of my colleagues said today really resonated with me because certainly I think our essays, although different in many ways, are similar. So we are, feel free to let us know how you plan to get involved in organizations, centers on campus, in the larger Austin community. I get a lot of questions about, well, is it presumptuous of me to include in my essay that I was a member of Venture Fellows? And my answer is no. Put it, we want to hear like what you want to do. We're not going to hold your feet to the fire if some of those things don't end up happening, or if you change your goals, but we want to hear what your ideal 2-year experience is going to be like for you. So for us, that's really special. And we do look at it at graduation. Oftentimes, we will say, hey, pull out your essay that you wrote. What changed? What did you actually do? What changed personally or professionally during your 2 years? And sometimes we'll hear from students, wow, I did everything I set out to do. And other times they're like, I had no idea, I discovered this other really neat corner of the universe here at Texas. And so things definitely change, but it's really fun to kind of look back and see what's different.
Yeah, I love this exercise. Like, I think it's a great opportunity for someone to, you're sort of, you said it, you're sort of forcing them to really think about, well, what would it be like if I were a student here? And so, yeah, really interesting exercise. I guess so someone could say, like, after graduating on the dean's list every semester.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but I think it would be, so it seems like a really good exercise. I did want to ask you to talk about, you used to have an essay that was either a video, or it was like they could just describe themselves to their classmates, if I remember correctly, and they could either use a video or they could write an essay, and that's gone and my understanding is you just have a video now that's a requirement. So do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to kind of highlight high level why we changed and where that's going. So as Graham said, we used to have an essay that was essentially introducing yourself to your classmates, either video or essay. And the big theme of what we're trying to do this year with our application is to put everyone on a level playing field, increase accessibility, and minimize bias. And so with our prior essay, we'd get some videos that were, clearly a lot of money was put into the videos, a lot of production value, and, other videos that were more homegrown, which was totally fine. Some people would write the 250 words out, and there just wasn't a lot of equity there. And so what we've done this year is we've introduced a video assessment component, which is an asynchronous video. I think some of my colleagues have mentioned videos as well. So more and more folks are, I think, jumping on this video bandwagon. But you'll be asked a series of about 7 questions, kind of similar to an interview, but again, it's asynchronous. And those questions are really going to get at what our essay 1 got at previously. So it's a huge change for us. We kind of got rid of the interview in its prior form. And the way that I've been describing it to applicants is the video assessment component is like the first 45 minutes of our interview in prior years. And then we've introduced a 15-minute, what we're calling admissions connections, which are 15 minutes with current students that I like to think of as the last 15 minutes, the fun part of the interview, where you're asking the student the questions and kind of turning the tables. So that's a really high level of what we've done, but we think it's going to be a great way to really, again, level the playing field. And the video is there for all of us to view. So it's not just going to be one current student with all the interview power in their hands. It's going to be a little bit more across the board, and every applicant will complete it.
Got it. Okay. Super helpful. Yeah. And I know I'm kind of a geek about this because I've been, Clear Admit's been around for a long time. And so we see the changes to schools' essays. And I know most people tuning in today probably don't care about what the questions were last year. They're focused on this year, but I think it's instructive in understanding how you all are thinking this through and assessing applications. So appreciate you shedding light on that. I think next up, we have some kind of lightning questions, if I remember correctly. It's kind of sort of lightning round questions, and we're going to stay with you, Stacey. So I would like to ask you to describe the McCombs community in 3 words.
That's so easy for me because I actually have, I don't know if you can see it, but we have words that we've done a lot of research, and our students agree that it kind of resonates. So I would say enterprising, curious, and authentic.
Okay, excellent. Let's hear from David. What would be the 3 words that you would use to describe the LBS community?
I'm going to say diverse, dedicated, and diligent.
Nice. Okay, so 3 Ds. All right, excellent. Virginie, how about you?
Well done on the 3Ds, David. The fourth D, David. Benevolent, limitless, and international comes to mind.
Okay. I would have given you extra points if you had used 3 Vs. That would have been really difficult. So, all right. So how about Lauren? How about the Fuqua community? What would be 3 words that you would use to describe the students? And yeah,
I was just panicking on how can I make all 3 of mine with the same letter, and I was close. Happy, humble, collaborative. I had to give up on the other H to get collaborative in there.
all right. And I recognize this is not an easy exercise, especially for JR, who has to go last because we're going in this direction. But how would you describe the Tepper community, JR?
Awesome. My 3 would be curious, collaborative, and inclusive.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we'll stay with you, JR, for our next lightning round question, which is, we've been spending all this time talking about essays today. And so I just wondered if you had any non-essay advice for a candidate that's interested in Tepper.
Sure. So I think this can just be collective advice. Your application is really going to be telling your story. And I know a lot of times we're picking those questions or what those prompts are, but you should be thinking about this as like, what do you want to share about yourself as a candidate? And then what is that strategy to use the application that we have set out to be able to share that with some of those prompts that we've used. So, if you can't share those things that you wanted, maybe on a resume, maybe you can do that on a recommendation letter or the essay. So make sure that you're using all of the different components of the application to really share your full story.
Wow, great advice. I mean, yeah, we talk a lot on just at Clear Admit, we talk a lot on the website about, the need to kind of take a personal inventory and think about like, what is it that you're bringing to the table before you even dive into the essays, to just understand like, what are the different facets of your candidacy? So really terrific advice. Lauren, how about you? Any non-essay advice that you have for people interested in Fuqua?
Engage with us, come visit campus, join a virtual event, visit us when we're in a city near you. That will help you put together all of the other components of your application.
Okay. Yeah. Good advice. I recently saw a debate online about people saying, oh, you don't have to go to any events. It doesn't matter that the schools don't don't notice that. Just work on your essays, get a good test score. But I feel like you guys do notice when people show up and you get their names, like you have them in your database afterwards. So I would think you notice, but sounds like you're, yeah.
Yeah, we notice in those ways. And then we also notice in your application, because it's very clear if you haven't done your research and actually spoken to members of our community.
Yeah, makes sense. Virginie, what about at Insead? Any kind of advice that you have that's not essay related for people applying?
Yes, absolutely. I strongly encourage prospective applicants to have questions for their interviewers. Be ready to be interviewed, because we prefer, so the interviews at Insead are conducted by alumni from the program, and it is very important to have relevant questions, to be ready to again be authentic and also have questions for the alumni. They have experienced the program, they don't know what it is to be part of the community, and part of making the due diligence is to also to have questions for them as well, not just one side of the conversation. It needs to be a two-sided conversation.
Excellent. Yeah, and I should just point out, I mean, you all have 2 interviews, I believe. I mean, that's traditionally been the case, right? So you have 2 interviews, each with an alum. And so, yeah, I think it's a really nice opportunity for a candidate to learn about the program. They're sitting down with someone who's, as you said, experienced it. So great advice to come with your questions to that process. David, any advice that you have that's not essay oriented for LBS applicants?
I'd echo everything I've heard so far, especially about the research, whether it's a visit or desk bound, it's really important. I guess I would say, don't sleepwalk into this. There are people who come at the idea of an MBA differently. And I think there are many people today who it's just what you do. It's the next step. Either I have to do it as part of my career or a certain company, or somebody told me. I actually think that we're telling everybody to do huge amounts of research on where and what does that mean? But actually do research, think through carefully the step before. Like, do I want this? Do I need it? Do I need it now? Don't sleepwalk into it, because it will all fall down if you aren't absolutely certain that you absolutely want this and need this. So it's a big, simple question. Is this for you? Do you want this? Do you need this now? Why?
Yeah, wow. Great advice too. Well, I'm really glad we have this question in the deck, because David, one thing I would say is that it's, in most cases, it's at least a year, if not two, of your life that you're going to be, spending on campus. Obviously, Insead's a bit faster than some of the other programs here today, but it's a commitment. And I do feel like sometimes, as you said, people kind of sleepwalk into it, just thinking, well, this is what you do. And I think you'll get so much more out of the experience if you know that it's right for you. And you probably will find the right program too, if you do the amount of due diligence that everyone's recommending today. So Stacey, over to you. Anything that you want to give in terms of advice here?
Yeah, mine's a little more tactical, but don't wait until the last minute to start your application. I think it's something we see every year, and most of us, our applications are going to open up here in the next few weeks in August. And so, there's plenty of time to log in there, take a look at what you're going to have to be answering, start those questions. I can't tell you how many times we get an application and where you're supposed to enter your goals, it says enter goals here. And clearly they didn't kind of go back and check through. They were rushing on the day of the deadline. So realize that many folks are deadline driven, but that's my recommendation, is start early, check, and don't wait until the last minute.
Great advice. I think there's a tendency for candidates to focus on like the essay questions, because, and maybe Clear admits a little guilty to this, we put the essay questions up on our site as soon as they're released, and then people get swept up in the recommendations or the test taking, and they rarely like log in and set up their account and see all these other little questions that are part of what I would call the data form or the application form. And so really good advice. Don't leave that for the end. I would recommend, if you know you're applying to a school, set up your account, go in, create your login and look at the application, because you might find that there are these little short answer type questions or things that you're going to need to get ready. And obviously, I think David mentioned earlier, there's a place for you to put in all of your activities. And so, yeah, really good advice. Let's stay with you. I think we have one more question that's a lightning round question. And this is a fun one. I did want to mention to everyone that's joined us today that right after we wrap this initial session, each of our panelists is going to jump into an individual Zoom room where you can go and interact with them, ask them your questions about their program, and we will provide you with links to each of those Zoom rooms as soon as we wrap here. We're waiting to give you them because we're going to give our panelists a head start to run off and get into their rooms and get set up before you all show up with your questions. So you will get the links. We'll provide them here in the chat. You'll get an email with them. So hold tight. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about this last lightning round question. So yeah, Stacey, what is one random thing about you that you're willing to share with the audience here?
Man, I saw this on the list. I had to ask my colleagues, like, what would you say if you were asked or anything? So I'm going to use one that I'll flip to a little hidden secret, I think, about McCombs is I drive a Vespa. I drive a Vespa to work. And I think that's a little random about myself. It is a little hot for a Vespa these days, but still doable. But the hidden secret is they can park anywhere in a metered spot across Austin for free. And so I get free parking at school, which is fantastic. So little tip for anybody that's a scooter Vespa motorcycle driver.
Excellent. All right, David, what about you? What's one random thing that you would like to share with our audience today?
I'm going to cheat and say two, but they're linked, so I get away with it. So I guess my big one about what I do outside of work, which is most of my life, unfortunately, very sadly, is I love music. I love going to music concerts, to gigs. It's a big thing for me. And the linked part of that is I'm also really tall, but I wanted to make this promise that I stand at the back of the gigs that I love going to these days. So no, I'm not blocking anybody's view. So there's two facts in one.
Excellent. Yeah, please don't stand in front of me at a concert. That would be, all right, Virginie, how about you? One random thing that you would like to share?
I went horseback riding over the weekend, and for some reason I went off track, off road, and my arms are full of scarves. So it's not a random thing anymore, but it's yeah, you should see my arms. But I'm okay.
Because you got sunburned, or
no, because I went off road. The horse decided to go in one direction, and I went in other direction. And in the beautiful forest of Fontainebleau, this is what happened.
Oh wow! So you
I went
fell.
off,
Okay.
off road. Yep.
Okay. Or off horse. Yeah.
Yes, off horse.
All right. Well, I hope you're okay. Lauren, how about you? This is unfair, Lauren, because
I
this is your
know.
school's, but in theory, you had to come up with 25 in order to join the team at Fuqua. So let's hear one of them.
I have a whole Rolodex, but I do want to give my colleagues a shout out. You did a great job of demonstrating how to give context with your random facts. So my random fact is that I met my partner through Teach for America when we were both sent to North Carolina to teach in the K-12 system here. And it has now been 13 years and we haven't left North Carolina or each other. So looking
great.
forward to continuing to grow our family here.
Excellent. Oh, well, that's cool. JR, how about you? One random thing about yourself.
Sure. So I'll take inspiration from David here. In a prior life, I used to run large shows. And in one of my first large shows, I actually got into a fight with Kanye West and won.
Well, that might just be the most random fact that I've ever had anyone share on. That's really, he seems like someone who would be, you could see how like maybe, there could be a fight. He's always, looking for controversy. Excellent. Wow.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to thank our panelists for making so much time and for obviously they're going to jump off into their individual Zooms to accommodate you. I did want to mention that you can go and talk with multiple schools just one at a time, right? Because it's Zoom, so you can't be in multiple Zooms at once, but you can jump in if you have a question for Lauren about Duke and then one for, Virginie about Insead. You can do that. Just, they're going to stick around for usually at least, 20 or 30 minutes or so answering your questions. So I wanted to thank, obviously, Lauren, JR, Virginie, Stacy, David. I really want to thank you guys for your time today. It's been a real pleasure having you on this panel, and yeah, we'll let you log out and get into your individual Zooms. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Graham.
All right. So everyone that's still lingering here, I'm gonna stall just for a minute or so to let our panelists get into their Zooms. We will send you the links. They're going to be coming up here in the chat room. I did want to talk to you for 1 minute about something that's actually I'm really excited about. This is actually the day that ClearAdmit has introduced something called ClearAdmit Plus. It's a subscription service that provides guidance on all aspects of admissions. For those of you who listen to our podcast, you might have kind of caught some inklings of this because we've been talking about something new and exciting that was coming down the pipeline. But literally today, we just unveiled something called ClearAdmit Plus. It features there are 25 videos that you can watch about admissions. There's access to all that data that we've gathered over the last 10 plus years on admissions outcomes. So you can slice and dice the data that we have in really interesting ways. We also are going to have once a month a private webinar just for ClearAdmit Plus members where you can come and hear from myself or Alex Brown or sometimes both of us about all things MBA admissions and ask your questions and just hang out with each other and kind of be part of the community. And the other thing is if you do an annual subscription to ClearAdmit Plus, you can also get our publications. Many of you know that we have interview guides and lots of really good digital publications that guide you through the admissions process. I think we have a little even sneak peek here. If you are on our website, you can see now there's this new little thing called ClearAdmit Plus on the right-hand side. And if you've subscribed, this is what you would see. You can see the Admissions Academy, which is our series of videos. I think there are now 25 videos that we've recorded. Those are recorded by myself and Alex Brown on our team. And we touch on basically everything you would need to know. And each video has a lot of notes and reading tips and additional kind of links to things that might help you to navigate. As I said, we have a data dashboard where you can engage with all the kind of benchmark stats on GMAT and GRE and GPA. And then obviously we're going to do these monthly webinars, first Monday of every month. And then finally, if you're an annual subscriber, you can have access to our publications for free. So please check this out. You can already see it on the website if you just go to the little ClearAdmit Plus button. Otherwise, I think we're going to get you the links now. And I encourage you to please, the schools are standing by. They're really excited to take your questions and hang out. They know that there was no Q&A allowed during the main session today. So they're definitely looking forward to hearing from you. So we're going to get the links posted. And I just saw a question. Someone asked if the individual Zoom rooms are recorded, and they are not. They're just going to be, it's just going to be off the cuff. So there are no recordings in there. I forgot to mention that ClearAdmit Plus is $9.99 per month. So $9.99 per month. And if you buy the annual subscription, normally it's $59.99, but I think we're running a special because we just introduced it. So I think it's like $45 for a year. So please check it out. You will get an email as well with a full recording of today's session. And here are the links. So I recommend you copy these. We're going to put them in the chat so you can actually copy and paste them in case you want to go to multiple schools. And yeah, we'll see you all next week. Next week, we've got Stanford, Wharton, MIT, Columbia, and I'm totally now blanking on, there's another school that's joining us too. I don't know if Mike's here and can remind me, but we've got 2 more weeks of this. Every Wednesday, we're going to be sitting down with top schools. So please join us next week as well. And yeah, thanks so much for attending, everyone.